What's up, KiKi crew? This is your girl Coco, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Kikiing with Coco. If you are new to the show, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's about life in general with an emphasis on relationships. I have my friends, family, or guests come on the show and we kiki about whatever the day's topic is. So today I have a return guest. She is our favorite therapist. Brittany, you want to go ahead and say what's up?
Hey everybody, so glad to be back.
And I am glad to have you back for sure. Y'all know every episode starts off with the drink with Coco, and it is a guest recommendation. So Brittany recommended the pomegranate lemon drop, and what I will say is the girls are in love with lemon drops.
They
In
are.
any way you can make them, they
Yeah.
want them, and I'm actually here for it. Like I think like younger me had tried a lemon drop and I was like, this too strong for me. But I'm a seasoned veteran drinker now. I'm just like, you know what? This
Let's
is
get the spot now.
yeah. So what is it for you that you like about the pomegranate lemon drop?
So I really like I've never been a big pomegranate the fruit person, but anything pomegranate flavor I like. Now I find myself and I can't remember where I had it. It might have been at the Cheesecake Factory, but now I'm actually glad to see like restaurants and bars putting a spin on the lemon drop because like the regular lemon drop is cool, but I'm quick to be like, can you make it like a strawberry or a
Yeah.
raspberry or grant like give me some, and I think it just looks cuter. Like, give me some. So I really like sweet drinks. So lemon drop was definitely a staple in my household when I got hip to it like everybody else. And now
Mhm.
I can't break away from it.
Okay, okay. Well, I am looking forward to making this drink. And, if y'all try it out, let me know whether that means you went to a restaurant, tried it, or you decided to make it at home. Let me know. Hashtag drink with Coco at Kiki and with Coco. And so we're going to go ahead and get into this word on the street. And baby, when I tell you Portia Williams is the biggest scammer of them all, like
And
you
that's cool.
yes, the finesse queen. Like you stole this woman husband to thinking you getting a bigger flex. To come to find out your man ain't no citizen. He been scamming, potential deportation, lying about who he is. Like, what you think?
But you know what? I really think that like the whole divorce thing is a ploy. I think
Mhm,
whatever legal stuff he got going on, they want to make sure she is separated from it. And
mhm,
I don't know. I can't see her going through like facing the backlash of taking this woman's man, and then having these elaborate weddings, and then turning around and, jet setting with him all across the world for at least what, like a year and a half now to turn around and be like, oh, we just not together no more. I think it's fake.
yeah.
Like it's fake news. And again, she just decided that she was going back to Real Housewives of Atlanta. What better storyline? I saw somebody say, I think it was a tweet where somebody was like, now instead of going and being asked about her marriage, she gets to be asked about like her grief or her mourning of going through divorce. And like that is a spin, so it kind of takes you from being the villain to the victim in a sense. So
Mhm.
I think it was so like her just happening to go back on Real Housewives of Atlanta at this very time. Everything is just strategic. But I don't know if I wouldn't, I don't know if I'm a believer that the whole relationship is just fake or that there's no real love there. I think you have to go through a lot. Like she had to go through a lot to be with him to
Mhm.
just be, all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. I don't think their relationship is fake by far. It's just real convenient that
Yeah.
the timing of everything and how it happened. Like you said, all the elaborate weddings that they did, like jet setting, I think was like it's crazy to think like you did all of this to just
Right.
leave. And literally
Right.
days before, she made her announcement that she was coming back. She's like, Portia Williams isn't, but Portia Guavadia is. So like, and then like literally, I don't even feel like it was a full week. It was just days later. It was like filed for divorce. Like, huh? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what girl, what?
And it also came shortly after their news about his citizenship, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know much about like that part of it, but you got people's families involved. So like I don't buy that it's fake, but I do buy that it is very strategic and they're trying to prepare along the lines for whatever is to come, and I don't think it's any different than like the Yandy and Mendici situation where people found out that they weren't legally married, even though they had this marriage, and it was because like he was going through legal stuff, child support. You just as a woman, you have to play it careful as much as you may love a man,
Take yourself.
yeah, you got to protect yourself. And I wouldn't be surprised if Simon was like, yeah, so this is what we need to do. Like, cause if you are loved in the way that you feel like you are, the man in your life doesn't want to see you succumb to any negative legal issues
Right.
on behalf of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I definitely think whatever is going on, like there is a reason for it happening. I probably don't think that they are not going to be together, but they of course have to play the role or play the part based off of his legal issues. And yeah, the Mendices and Yandy situation was definitely a similar one. Like he had all those legal issues, and she's like, because when you are married and you have children outside of your marriage, and not like outside, but before your marriage or whatever the case may be, like the courts, the legal system is like, this is the income coming into your home, regardless of them your children or not, and make you pay child support if your man don't got it. So I completely understand. Like he was about to go to jail. Like who was about to pay the child support?
Yeah, yeah, nope. It makes sense. It makes more than enough sense. So we just never know what that's gonna look like. But Portia is um she isn't new to things that break the internet.
No,
So
she is not. She is definitely used to making headlines. So I think she has maybe exceeded her own expectations.
okay, yeah. That this was just not anything that you expect. But I also feel like, when you have sometimes the right people in your corner, a good publicist, they're gonna tell you this is what you need to do so we can spin it this way. And
Mhm.
or people kind of, I think, sometimes need to take that line of thinking or that line of being receptive to that type of advice and feedback when you are a public figure, because some shit can be avoided.
Right, for sure. So I can't wait for Real Housewives of Atlanta to come back on. I can't wait to see how she, um, just how she pushes
Yeah.
this narrative and even just how the whole situation plays out in general. So let more to come on Portia Williams Gorbadia, whatever she want to call herself these days. To
Okay. And I feel like Real Housewives of Atlanta and Real Housewives of Potomac is like the predominantly black cast are. I don't want to say that they're competing, but there's always commentary. I feel like these last few seasons of people just kind of be like, this is kind of getting dull, like same storylines, like what are we gonna do? Like I know I'm kind of only watching Potomac now out of just like obligation, but I'm kind of over it. Like I don't look forward to watching it, but baby, Atlanta gonna take the cake this year
yeah.
because they got the right peach to return. And everybody gonna be front and center in front of their TVs, ready to catch it.
Yes, and then also, like they are revamping the cast. Like honestly and truly, I think it needs to be done. Like as much as I love the people on that show, it was getting a little mundane, and they were literally making up BS issues to beef with each other. And it's just like, no, let's, you know what, we might need some new blood so that
Mhm.
we can get some new perspectives, some real life stuff going on that we were not privy to before. Like as much as I love Candy being on the show, like Candy served no purpose being on the show no more. Like,
The show because she's Candy.
yeah,
Like,
like maybe if they had the original cast with Nene, Portia, and not even the original cast, but maybe from like season 3 to when Nene left, like maybe that cast need to be brought back together because they real life made good TV.
yeah, yeah. And I've been telling myself to go back because I was late on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I probably only started watching a couple years ago. So
Mhm.
I only caught maybe like the tail end of I think maybe I saw 1 or 2 seasons with Nene before she left. But I was like, Nene is such reality TV gold. I was like, I feel like I have to go back and really watch some of these memes and gifs in person so I can really understand like the dynamics that have changed over time.
Girl, like Nene got one liners for days.
Yeah,
And
that
me and my friends, we quote them on a regular. They make them when you got the coin, baby.
okay. Look, bling bling. Look, and I ain't even seen the episode, but that's my favorite one.
Yes, they make them when you got the coin.
Yeah, no, real
So,
good TV. I said one day I'm gonna sit back, and that's kind of how I got into Potomac. I started from the beginning, but I also understand like those types of shows. I think they do better when you watch them on a week to week basis. Because me trying to binge Potomac, like I think I maybe got to the 3rd season. I was like, all right, like you kind of just see how they drag the same problems from one
mhm.
episode to the next, from one season to the next. I was like, okay, y'all getting catty and I'm not entertained anymore. So I had to like take a break and then go back to it. But I'm like,
Yeah.
this is stuff like this you watch week by week because trying to indulge it all at once, you get bored.
Yes. So I didn't start Housewives the first season, I don't think. I don't think I started watching Housewives. And I think it was the second season when Candy got on the show. So I started watching from the second season, but of course I went back and watched the first season. And then
Mhm.
Potomac, I didn't start off with that initially. Like I think they might have been like 3 seasons in before I started watching them. And the
Yeah.
only reason I started because my mama be on Facebook in blogs putting her 2 cents in, and I just be like she be like, girl, I was on in the chat talking about XYZ. I'm like, log off. But she'd be telling me like, "Ooh, did you watch
She
Housewives?"
said,
Huh?
no, I said, Mama had some things to say.
Yeah, she always got something to say. But she was like, "You watch Salt Lake City Housewives?" I'm like, "Nah." She like, "Girl, you need to watch. You watch Potomac?" I'm like, "No." She like, "You need to watch." So I started watching Potomac, but I will say the Potomac one gets a bit cringy. And I say that because
Mm,
it's a lot of like internal race issues going on that show, and I hate it.
yeah, no, definitely. And you just kind of see sometimes how like I understand for TV you have to have a certain level of like entertainment, but just sometimes the cattiness just gets a
Mhm.
little old, like or it just isn't making sense why such and such don't like such and such and why they can't move forward and like what the real issue is. Like y'all get over it.
Get over it.
And then sometimes that ruins the vibes because you like to see like everybody getting along, having a good time, and then it take one thing. I'll be like, all right, now we back to square one.
Yeah, like I was watching last week's episode. I tried to watch it today, but the TV ended up watching me. And I seen the tail end of the last episode where I guess the green eyed monster, Giselle, she called herself trying to retitle the Grand Dame of Potomac to Nectar. And I'm just like, now why you have to do that? That was real petty.
Yes, especially because her and Karen been in a somewhat like good place with each other. So like please don't play with Karen. And Karen is actually grown to be one of my favorites, like as far as because sometimes she do shit that I don't even think she realizes it's so funny and I just be cracking up because
Yeah,
she is the oldest one out the group, but also is she demands the respect that I feel like she deserves at this point.
yeah, for sure. I do actually like Karen. I know before I started watching, my mama used to be like, they need to stop playing with Karen because Karen gonna air all their asses out.
Yeah, Karen all the time.
Yeah, she is definitely a good time. But, again, I can't wait to see what happens with Portia's storyline, how this gonna play out. And then, as we move into the hot cup of cocoa, we still gotta hit on Reesa Teesa's 50 part, Who the Fuck Did I Marry? And I was not going to watch it initially because I was like, I don't have this type of time. But eventually I did. It took me two days to get through all, I'm calling them episodes, to get through all the episodes. But when I tell you mind blown, when I did finally finish it, like I was literally like sitting on pins and needles, like trying to hit the rest of it. And I know a lot of people was like, she talking too slow, or like what was the point. And as a storyteller, I can see like how she wanted to be accurate and what she remembered happened or how she felt as she was going through these things. Crazy that she said she did like voice notes, like a voice diary in her phone, like when certain things would happen, so she was able to go back and listen to those things to see like what her thought process was. Like it was a very well thought out, like even though a lot of the videos were recorded like while she was in the car or at the end of her day, but it seemed like a very well thought out way to tell her story. And then also like just knowing like this woman was legit traumatized from this situation, and I think anybody would be. Um, but if y'all have not seen the Reesa Teesa, basically what it is this lady met this man. I'm gonna just give y'all a short synopsis. Um, she met this man. He was talking about how he was a VP of a Fortune 500 company. He was wanting to buy them a house, wanting to buy her a new car, i.e., like a BMW, a Audi, or something like that. And he kept, like, every time it came time to like pay for the items, it'd be like, oh, we lost the house, or somebody had a better offer, or oh, my bank ain't sending information in time for the proof of funds. So after it happening so many times, she had kind of caught on. But I think at this point they were already married because they didn't date for a long period of time. He had a schedule. She had his schedule down to a science. He was paying all the bills in the house. Basic, all in all, he was a pathological liar. Anything he told her about him, about his life, about the things he had, the money he had, it was all a lie. She did get pregnant by him. She ended up having a miscarriage. And I know a lot of people feel like, children are a blessing, whatever the circumstances are. But to me, I would not want to be tied to a man like that. And because what he has is an illness, and he has an illness, and I just feel like you never know how that is going to transpire into a child, how that's going to develop into your child. So I legit feel like she dodged a bullet for not having that baby.
Big one.
And he would legit gaslight her, like, I'm gonna do this for you, I'm gonna do that for you, and really had no intentions of doing anything. And she did put him out the house, like it was a whole story about him getting put out the house and stuff. But ultimately she was able to get out of the relationship. I think the relationship in its entirety from beginning to end might have been like a 2-year span. But to think like for a year and a half of your relationship with somebody, you just find out everything was a lie. The bank accounts, the amounts in the bank account, like the bank accounts were, when he would show her like he had money, was legit a screenshot from Google Images.
Oh, Jesus.
Like she was like, he would pull up his checking account. It'd be like $5,000 in a checking account. The savings account would have like $9,000 in it. And then like he said he had an offshore account, and a US bank account where like the majority of his money was. Like that account, the accounts that he was showing her was just like his play money almost. But his real money was sitting in these other accounts, but he would never show her those accounts. They went to marriage counseling, and the pastor and his wife is like, y'all got some real problems. Like if y'all had came to us for premarital counseling, y'all wouldn't be married.
And that's real. Yeah, no. So I didn't watch it. I gathered enough from everybody giving their opinions, and one girl actually did like a thread synopsis on Twitter. So I kind of skimmed and read through that, and I was like, okay. I think one thing that was really important that people pointed out, because nowadays everybody likes to run with this whole like accountability word. Like everybody just wants everybody else to be held accountable, and ain't looking at how they need to hold themselves accountable. So I seen people like, well, she needs to, acknowledge like blah blah blah, and it's like she did. I
Mhm.
was heard that she has acknowledged she ignored red flags, that there were certain things that she probably didn't poke enough into, or she let the relationship kind of go at a pace that was not as slow as it needed to be. And there are many women out there with stories like hers.
Mhm.
I think that the way in which society raises young women to idolize and romanticize love and marriage, it really sets us up sometimes to be taken advantage of, to just not know the right things to look for, or we're prioritizing the wrong things. Like every woman is like, oh, I would love for a man to pay all the bills, but it's also like you never go into something like that blindly where you don't have a certain level of access to the accounts. And it's like great that he was paying the bills, it don't sound like he put her in the position where she had to come in and like financially save the day on certain occasions. But like you said, that is still knowing that like your reality for a year and a half was false is traumatizing, because now moving forward you're going to second guess every single romantic interaction that you ever have.
Mhm.
And a girl like me, baby, if a man says that he has a important job, that important job is going to be on somebody's LinkedIn. It's going to be on somebody's Google. It's going to be somewhere on Beyonce's internet. So
Yeah.
I'm very quick, because even out of curiosity, I may want to know how much you make, and Google gonna tell me. So um, there are just certain things, as women that I think we take at face value. And now we in 2024, we kind of have seen certain scams and women being taken advantage of. And now we do a little bit more due diligence. And I hope that men get to a place where they understand that, because I know sometimes they act a little offended. Like if a girl is like, I need to take a picture of your plate, or what's your full name? And they want to, what you need my full name for? Are you the ops? Sir, I need to make sure that you don't have a record. I need to make sure that you don't pop up, that your mugshot isn't popping up on anybody's database. Like
Mhm.
we have to be that thorough, unfortunately. And sometimes, I think some men would end up in better situations if they were more thorough. There is an entire show that is still running by the name of Catfish, of both genders getting set up or scammed out of shit because people are just kind of going off of somebody's word, and they want to be in love and in relationships so damn bad.
Yeah. So I personally have done background checks on people before, especially so like as everybody know, like I am in the military. I have ways to find things out about people. It's a small community in general. So you always know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So you can always get the skinny on somebody if you want to find out about them. You know what I'm saying? And that's definitely us not doing the right things with the jobs that we hold. So don't hold that against us. But it happens.
Yeah.
Um, I have done like background checks, like paid to do background checks on like people that I have dated who have not been in the military, because I'm just like, I know what you tell me, you know what I'm saying? But like, does the things that you tell me check out with what you really saying that you are? Like I had one guy tell me, like, I think that's an invasion of privacy. Like, why don't you genuinely want to get to know somebody? And I'm like, it's not that I don't genuinely want to get to know somebody, because paper you is different from who you really are. But I want to know on paper, because people gonna lead with where they work, where they've been to school, and if they've been affiliated with sports, if they've been like, these are things that you're going to find out. But let me make sure that the things you're telling me is lining up with that.
Yeah.
And even the last person I dated, like, he checked out, as far as like what he said about himself. But it got to a point in our relationship where, he wasn't following through on things that he was saying. He wasn't showing up when he need to. And I told him, I said, we had been together for like 2 years. And I told him, like, I don't know nothing about you. And he said, because I hadn't met his family, I hadn't met anybody in his life. And I told him, I was like, I don't know nothing about you. He was like, no, you know everything about me. I said, no, I know what you tell me. And at this current moment, because you're not producing in this relationship, I don't want to continue forward with it, because why? Why?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and of course, when you invest that much time into a relationship, it is hard to let it go. But I'm like, I have to be realistic about the things that I want. And if you can't give me that, like, say that. And if you
Absolutely.
not gonna say that, like, just let me go on about my day. Like, leave me alone. you know.
Yes.
So
And it like speaks a lot about a person. So if you haven't met them, there's definitely room to
mhm.
suspicious about certain things,
Yeah.
because you have to know the people that a person is in close proximity and connection with to be able to kind of just verify
Mm.
uh what you're getting to know about them. And what's funny is I actually went through, I wasn't scammed, but I had an interaction with a scammer who I later found out was like a real scammer. Like there was a news article written about him, um basically scamming like women out of money in the Midwest between like Chicago, Indiana. Like it was a real thing. And I've told this story on my YouTube, but just like to give you a condensed version of it. I met this man in traffic, was leaving the nail shop. I think we kind of caught eyes, was like real like, oh, he's cute. And he looked back and he was like, pull over, whatever. So we pull over. He tells me, now this is like an area that is there's a hospital not too far from the nail shop. So he's like, yeah, I just got off work. Did he tell me? He said he was some type of surgeon. Um, and that he just got off work, and this was maybe around like the holiday season. So he's like, yeah, I'm putting together this drive to give away like PS5s, and like I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Like, so we exchanged numbers and we text really briefly, and things just start to get weird. Like the very first sign is he sends me a picture of like him with money, like stacks of money. And
Yeah.
then I think it was like a what are you up to? And he was like, oh, I'm shopping. So he sent me a picture of like him and the stack of money, like these shoes that he was looking at or whatever the case may be. I was like, I didn't ask for that, but okay. Um, and then, because again, this was a while ago, so I'm just pairing bits and pieces. So that was a weird thing. Then I remember we get on the we had this phone call where he's asking me like, what do you like to do? He tells me he lives in like this really affluent like neighborhood with just his dogs, and he's this bachelor and just all these things, right? So he's asking me like, what do you like to do? And I'm like, a little bit of everything. I like to have a good time. He's like, yeah, yeah, me too. Then he started talking about like, what would be good dates. And I think he mentioned the movies. And I was like, well, I prefer, not to do movies on the first date just because it doesn't give us really opportunity to talk. And he was like, well, of course it does. Like, because we can sit next to each other, we can smell each other and like just really sense a vibe. And I'm just like, okay, this is getting bizarre.
Tell each other. Boy,
Girl, girl. And then at a certain point in the conversation, I think he said something about like, yeah, I'm just looking for, a woman to come into my life and kind of, um, the whole make my house a home thing, and like somebody that's gonna be submissive. And of course, me, I'm just like, yeah, submission, I definitely believe is something that is earned. And he was like, well, he just started to get like really aggressive
Hmm.
on, and he was like, really abruptly, like, yeah, no, I don't think that this is gonna work. You're just you seem like a very difficult type of person, and it's just not gonna work. And he hangs up the phone. But
Hmm.
I've dealt with crazy before, so I know if a crazy person goes off like that and hangs up on the phone, they're not done. So of course he follows up with a string of text messages where he starts to degrade me. Like, this man doesn't know me from a can of paint, and he's just like, I knew when I seen you, because back then I ain't had my Jeep Wrangler, I had a Honda Civic because I was
Yeah.
still a little young thing. And he's
Mhm.
like, I just knew, you were in that raggedy car and I'm in my 300C, and you're gonna regret not getting with a man of my caliber. And then this is what really started to tell me what I needed to know. The way in which he was texting was not of a doctor.
Yeah.
Nobody's doctor. You're nobody's doctor, because you don't use punctuation. You can't really formulate a sentence, and you're unhinged. Like, I'm witnessing you unravel.
Yeah.
End of it. And then I want to say, I think I told the story on my Snapchat, and then
Mm.
maybe like a couple weeks or a month or two later, somebody who had watched that story was like, have you seen this? And they sent me an article, and I kid you not, it's his face, it's a mugshot, and it's an entire article written on him about how the fact that he has been scamming women out of money
Oh, no.
for months. So thank God I have the sense that he gave me to
Yeah.
be able to pick and choose. But like, shit, I ain't had no money back then anyway, so he wasn't getting nothing out of me regardless. But just being able to kind of connect dots, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this man is nuts. He is crazy.
Yeah, girl, I'm weak. But these men really out here playing the gambit, and it's women out here doing it too. So men ain't exempt either. But like, men are really playing on women's wants to be in relationships, and it's like it's unfortunate that these are the things women have to combat, have to protect themselves. Like,
And
I,
that's why we can't be our softest selves. How
mhm.
am I soft self when I gotta be on alert to make sure that the men around me have good intentions?
Yes. Like it's almost like you can't even meet people with good intentions anymore. Like everybody is out here to scam, to try and get you. Like, what? Like the hobosexual is a real thing. Like people just needing a place to stay. Like they will be with you for it, not gay for the stay, but in a relationship for the stay, child. Like,
Yeah, no, don't let you be too established. Oh, they definitely, especially men, they know the right men, especially in those predicaments, know how to play to women. Those are the men that are gonna provide the best sex, because they ain't got nothing else to give but to make sure that they can please you sexually. You know what I mean? Like, they gonna rub the feet, they gonna make sure, they gonna clean up around the house because they ain't got nothing else to offer.
exactly. They gotta make it to where you just like you need them to stay.
Mhm.
It's really horrible out here dating. And I feel for the girl Reesa Teesa for having to go through that situation. Like nobody deserves to be lied to. Like every woman, like you said, we've grown up to romanticize love and what that looks like. And then social media doesn't make it any better because you got people on the social medias talking about do this for your spouse. This how you get your man. All of these things. And of course, everybody is sitting there like, and Reesa Teesa even said, like, I just wanted it to be my turn. You know what I'm saying? Like, women are legitimately out here wanting this love that everybody seems to have, but them. And I've had to tell myself and my friend group, like, as much as we want to be like, we not loved because we don't have romantic love in our lives, like, you have to hone in on the love that you do have from your family, your friends, yourself, and so it's sad to hear that women have to go through these type of things in order to find love. Reesa Teesa may never be in a relationship again from fear of being lied to, being hurt. You know, like she'll never be able to trust fully. And one thing that I hope she does is go to therapy after that. Like I haven't watched any more of her page because she still, of course, posts, but I haven't watched any more to get details like if she has started going to therapy. But it's definitely something that I would recommend to her because it's just like you need to figure out like how you look past all these red flags. Like I definitely think she took accountability for her part that she played in it, how she let the relationship get to where it was. But in the same token, like understand like where were you mentally before you met this man? You know what I'm saying? Like what is it like why? Like, if you saw the red flags, like, why did you allow for this to keep going until it got too bad for you? Like sometimes you want to see it through, but honestly, after the first couple houses we had looked at and the house I really wanted fell through, I'd have been like, because he trying to put cash offer. How you putting a cash offer with no money? Like what? Like
And that's a strategy we call in like psychology, like breadcrumbing. You give just a little to keep a woman on the hook, and you keep giving it and you keep giving it without having to ever give the full loaf of bread, right? Because you don't have you got
right.
just to string a person along and keep them attached to you. People really don't understand how strong emotional attachments can be for people. And when when your self-esteem maybe isn't in the right place, or like you said, you've been kind of pining over this idea that one day it will be your turn and you will have this Prince Charming, all of that. You get so attached to the outcome and the vision of that sometimes you don't really care who's in front of you to make that happen. You just, as long as it's somebody, and that's where we kind of get messed up. I know that especially when you've been single for a while or you've had unsuccessful relationships. I'm not exempt from that. I have moments where I'm like, are you forcing this? It
Mm-hmm.
feels forcing this. And you know that if you have to force it, it's likely not for you. Experience has already taught you that. Like if you have to keep making excuses or justifications for the person that you're romantically interested in or your significant other's behavior, it's just not it. But we, like you said, we try really hard to see it through. And I think women, we need to do more. We need to take more pages out of men's book, because men, it don't matter how superficial it may be, if they see something that they don't like, unless they down bad like the homosexuals, they're not sticking around. They're
Yeah.
gonna be like, like I just had a guy who I was getting to know really briefly, and we got into a conversation about turnoffs. He was able to he named like maybe 2 turnoffs. I had like probably 7 solid ones, right? Nothing that I felt like would really be indicative of who I knew him to be up until that point. But after that conversation, he just kind of started like acting funny. And so I just felt the distance, and I'm like, what's up? What's
Yeah.
going on? And he was just basically like, yeah, it was giving strict. Like, and I'm like, well, what part about it? Like, and when he mentioned, I guess, like, yeah, you just kind of had all these things, and I'm just sensing some personality differences. And I'm like, well, if you had concerns about anything that I said, you probably should have said that and allowed me to elaborate. Um, and you didn't really give me that chance. So, I would hope that you just wouldn't write me off. He's like, no, I'm not writing you off. I ain't heard from that man since.
Yeah.
Like, so you in fact did write me off. You just didn't have a nerve to like say that with your chest. But again, men, they see certain things. And if they feel like it's not going to be compatible to like where they are in life or their lifestyle, no matter how good of a woman or other great traits you have, they're deading it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. We definitely need to take a note out of their book, but I definitely think that this is a great segue into the hot cup of cocoa. So in this week's Hot Cup of Cocoa, I saw Brittany post on Instagram one day about how she chooses to be single because of the things that she sees in her friends. And then, of course, as a therapist, the things that she sees in that capacity as well. So, what what are some of the things that you see that make you want to choose to be single?
Well, I'll tweak that a little bit. I don't know if I think I'm entering into an era of my life where I'm dating differently.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I am reestablishing kind of what, not necessarily what I'm attracted to, but what I can see for myself long term. Like, I think one of the things we touched on was the fact that I'm in a space now where I am indifferent about having kids. So, whereas younger me was like, oh, I really don't want to date no man with no kids. Like, I want my first to be his first, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, where are the baby daddies? Because if you already have some kids, you're not going to look to me to have kids. And that's not to say that I would never have kids, but I don't want the pressure of knowing I have to give this man a child.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would rather us just be able to exist in that relationship and cross that bridge if it comes. So that was one thing where I'm like, okay, I still have parameters for the kids. They can't be under a certain age. I prefer them older, like all those types of things. But I'm like, I ain't mad at some kids because then you might not look to me to have none. So let's just, I'm all right with that now.
It's
It's
funny. Not to cut you off, it's funny that you say that. Like, I've always known, like, I wanted to have kids. And of course, I went through that phase where I was just like, I want my first to be my husband, first kid, all of this and that. Now I'm just like, well, all the men got children. And now the issue for me now, like just being older, is finding men that want to still have children because they got their kids already. They like, I'm good. I'm fixed. Like I can't have no more kids. And I just be like, so
right.
how I'm
Yeah.
gonna get a baby? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yeah.
And I actually think that that's interesting because I think most of the men that I've met that do have kids, they still kind of understand. Like I'm talking to a new guy now, and his kids are grown, but he understood. He was like, knowing that I date younger women, and if I meet a woman and fall in love with a woman who doesn't have kids and we get married, I know that I need to be open to starting over.
Mhm.
And I've heard a couple men say like, yeah, if I meet a woman, and she ain't got no kids, like I'm kind of knowing that I'm starting over, sort of thing. But I think it depends on how many kids it is.
Mhm.
Um, I know my dad had two kids when he met my mom, and my mom felt like she could have waited a little longer, but he was ready to like crank out another one. It was like, um, so yeah, so that's one component of it. And I'm also entering into being interested in dating more divorcees because I think it's really important for men, based on what I've seen in my experience. I think you have a better chance sometimes with people who have been through it.
Mhm.
That's not to say any divorcee, right? More so a divorcee who has elevated in their life, maybe got married really young, um, and they got another marriage in them. People say that the second marriages are typically better than the first. Okay. And you don't have, you still got people who end up married 3, 4, 5 times. So this ain't about them, but this is really more so speaking to like the men who kind of went through it. They understand some of the things that went wrong. They understand what a marital commitment looks like. They understood what was missing. They understand what it means to show up as a husband and their flaws and how they may have not done that in their first marriage. And
Mhm.
so I'm starting to like it a little seasoned around here.
Yeah.
The kids, I could tell whether or not you're gonna be a good dad. You've been married, you've learned some things, So and I know that you aren't necessarily afraid of commitment. So I think in my journey of being single, it's like, yes, have I met men that I could have? Because let's just be real here. I've been single. My 9-year anniversary was this month in February. So I've been single for a long time.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that I haven't dated or had my share of situationships. But one thing I've seen is relationships take a lot of in order for them to happen, they require a lot of good timing and alignment. Like I like this person just as much as they like me. We are both ready to commit. We're gonna both be ready to do this. And us kind of coming up in this generation of where the situationship is normalized,
Mhm.
you stop seeing like people are going these long stretches of time being technically single, but having many relationships within
Yeah.
that period of time
Yeah.
because nobody wants to put a title on anything. Because with
Exactly.
comes expectations, and people can't, like, they are so scared of that. And so I think that I could have been in a place where I was like, yeah, I may entertain this guy, but I have a hard time being in alignment. The who want to be on my heels and in my phone, I'm like, I don't know. Something about you either ugly or you give me the ick, or like something just isn't meshing. And the guys that I'm actually absolutely enamored with are the hustlers, and they're just like, I'm working towards my goals. I ain't got time to be settling down, and like it's just exhausting.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely exhausting, I will say. Timing and alignment is everything. And I feel like I learned that in every situationship I have had over the past, like I've been divorced since 2016. So this is like 8 years, coming up on 8 years being divorced or whatever. And technically, like you said, if you want to be honest about it, I've been single for a long stretch of time, but that don't mean I haven't dated. I haven't had situationships in between. And the last relationship I had that was 2 years, like that was like still a long period of time since I had been divorced or whatever. And the timing, like also realizing like timing is everything. Somebody could come around and really, really like you. Like I did a podcast, an episode a couple episodes ago about like boomeranging back to people from your past. Is it something that I do often? Yes, I do it very, very often.
you, you spin the block.
I'm gonna spin the block because it's a place of comfort for me. Like I know you, I know what you coming with, like like those are the reasons why I will spin the block on people because it's just like maybe you got your shit together now. You know what I'm saying? People change. But also having the discernment if you gonna spin the block to recognize whether the timing is still right yet again. Like I'm at a place in my life, like something else I had to come to the conclusion of in my last relationship is that, I am close to retirement. Like I have assets and things in my life. And if a man is going to enter into it, like you legitimately, and I hate to, be like, I'm not talking about what I bring to the table, none of that. I'm just saying, like, you need to match what I'm doing or be better. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not in the business of taking care of men. That's one.
Girls saying they need to come potential. Like no more
No potential. You need to be potential. I want to take trips. You need to be able to take trips. The fact that a majority of my career has been spent overseas, there is a lot of space for there to be distance in between our relationship. I need you to be able to afford to come to where I'm at because I'm always gonna make a point to make it to you. Like I'm gonna always give 100% effort into my situation, but I need you to be doing the same thing. And guess what? That takes money. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be talking about come see me all the time. Like, is the money there to do it? Sure, but why should I have to spend all my money to dedicate to this relationship? I shouldn't. It's a two-way street. You need to be doing the same thing. Communication is key. Like if you cannot communicate like what you feel, how you feel, like come with viable suggestions to make it better. Like what we doing? Like I'm in a different space. And if you're not in that same space or better, like I don't have time for it. Like I deserve to be loved in a way where you know what I'm saying? Like in a way where I receive that. Like I'm gonna pay attention to the way you want to be loved. I'm gonna listen to you and let you tell me like how you receive love. And I'm gonna try and give you love in that way. So if I'm telling you that my love language is gifts, and that don't mean just receiving gifts. I love to give gifts as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like if I'm telling you this, it ain't about the extravagance of the gift. It's that you thought about me. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel love. And if you can't do simple shit like flowers. And I know some people be like, I don't like flowers. Flowers die. Because mine definitely gonna die in a couple of days because I'm not a plant person. But I like to receive them. They're pretty to look at. It make me feel thought about. You know what I'm saying? But it was a simple gesture. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like if you can't do simple stuff like that, like, you know, I just don't have the energy for it.
And being that, like, I get very intimate views into the lives of other people,
Mm-hmm.
um, what I do for a living. And I also work with couples. So the last few years of me doing that work, I've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't work, as
Mm-hmm.
well as the importance of compatibility and shared vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes people, especially the ones I'll say who end up dating people from their like either your high school sweetheart or people that you grew up knowing from around your neighborhoods or whatever, and you all end up, whether it be years later, end up being together because you have like this spot in your heart that is special for them. Does not mean that that is going to be a functional and a healthy relationship as adults, especially if you just don't have the same vision for how life is supposed to look and what your roles are supposed to look like. Like I
Mm-hmm.
see couples kind of break down in that. And again, just kind of the one of the things you spoke to is just a level of emotional intelligence. I can tell 9 times out of 10 which spouse is going to be the problem by the spouse who is resistant to doing their own individual therapy. I
Mm-hmm.
can see you as a couple. But if I say, hey, I think both of you all need to be going and doing some individual work, whoever says, I don't feel like I need that, you are a big part of the problem. And and that's not to say that the other person isn't, but at least there is a willingness. There are two components I feel like are really important for relationships to work: willingness and an openness to be able to do what needs to be done in order to preserve the relationship and make it as healthy as possible, even if sometimes that, like, because therapy can be uncomfortable, and even if it's your comfort zone, your willingness to do it and your commitment to doing it is really important. A big thing that we're seeing, Love is Blind is on right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the one couple who kind of seems to have it all together is like Amy and Johnny, but we see in these last series of episodes what comes up with them is the topic of money and how they choose to spend money, or how they choose to, what their beliefs on money looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that kind of raised my eyebrow because I'm like, yeah, y'all all like, yeah, I think we see the same things for ourselves, but I don't know if I see that. I see one person who is saying, I want to be frugal as a man. I want to be able to do, all of these things before we have kids. So I can feel financially stable. But the issue when men say that is many of them don't have a specific, whether it be number in mind. They just, I want to be financially stable. Does that mean you need to be making a certain amount of money? Does that mean you need to have a certain amount of money in the bank, a certain amount of money in your savings? What are the tangibles of that? Because you're going to be working for the rest of your life. If you do it right, hopefully not, but that's making money is going to always be a part of your routine. So if you're insisting that I have to put certain parts of my life on hold, or I need to make certain sacrifices in order to get to this place, you need to know exactly where that place is and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, you have this woman who's like, yes, I want to save, but I still want to enjoy life. I like to live in the present. I like to travel. Like I want to be able to do all the things, that being able to make money affords you. And
Mm-hmm.
so just like, little things like that. Money is always a big point of contention. Living above or below your means. I have a couple that I see that like money and bills being paid is a huge point of contention between them. And I often have to ask, like, it feels like to me you all are in a situation where you're living above your means. And that is why your husband is constantly having to play catch up because you don't have a savings. And if something goes wrong with the car or your kid needs something, they just had a kid who graduated 8th grade. So you got graduation, you got luncheon, all of these extra expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Money's going out, but y'all don't have a sense of what's coming in, and there is a disparity, which is why we're months late on the mortgage, which is why we're struggling to stay afloat, and that is disrupting you all's ability to connect and maintain your intimacy. Because as women, if our mortgage ain't paid, the coochie not getting wet. Like I can't think about sex when I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to pay my bills. You know what I mean? But as a man, they can compartmentalize. Sometimes they like, well, shit, the bill's gonna be there. I still need some coochie.
Yeah.
So that's these are the things that kind of come up, and it emphasizes to me how important some of those very initial conversations that you have, when you're dating. Again, that couple specifically, they met when they were young, they kind of went their separate ways, and then they got back together, and they've been together ever since. But there isn't we can both say, like, yes, we want this life for ourselves, but there is not a clear plan of how we intend to collaborate to bring that to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, money is definitely a place of contention. I know it is for me because, I mean, the saying is real. Money get funny. When money get funny, people get funny. And I'm going to get real funny when this money ain't looking right. It's one thing about me. My bills going to always be paid. That's first and foremost. If all I got in my account is $5 after I pay my bills, then I'm going to make that $5 work till I get paid again. You know what I'm saying? But I also think that men and women place different importance on things. So, like, as a woman, like I say, I could have that $5 in my account, but long as I look good and feel good about myself, I can keep it pushing through. A man can't operate with just $5 in his account. Like, he's placing the importance on needing to have those funds available for whenever. And I think that is because we view money in two different ways. Like, yes, if money is funny, am I going to be stressed about it? Yes, I will. But I can rest in the fact of at least knowing that I feel good about myself. I made it to the gym. I did XYZ. I still been productive. I'm making strides to get where I need to be. A man is not happy until he figures out, like, where he feels comfortable in his money. But like you said, men aren't putting like numbers to what that looks like. And that's the problem. Like you saying, you want to save, save, save. Okay, what's the amount that you want to save? What is an amount you feel comfortable having saved? You going to school to get all of these degrees. Okay, so what kind of job are you trying to get? Like, so I get it, not feeling like you can function without knowing that financially you can do what you want to do. And at this point in my life, like, I do need somebody who is financially stable and can do, like, we ain't 21 fresh out of college getting it out the mud. Like, I'm closer to 40.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be 40 years old still talking about, my man short on cash. I gotta cash app him some cash.
All right.
And,
Oh, yeah.
no, we not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, or being in a position where you feel like held back, because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen, like, a woman may be in a position where she, was able to cover all of her things, and a man enters her life or whatever. And now she still wants to elevate. She still wants to, look into doing investment properties or different businesses, or like these things that are going to create more money. But again, depending on a person's relationship with money, they may understand the risk associated with doing stuff like that, or they like, like, I'm not taking that risk, like, because they may have financial trauma from their past.
Right.
There's another couple I was seeing where, like, the man had gone through a divorce. He had a lot of financial issues with that divorce and like with that relationship, and so now it's like this woman, they've been together for a while, but she wants to take a couple risks. She wants to do, buy property and do all these things, and he's like, I don't know. And she like, look, you're gonna either get with it or you're going to get left on this front, because she's a get it out the mud type of woman. She like, I done lost it all and gained it back. So I'm not scared of taking no risk when it comes to some money that may make me more money.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of struggle to come to agreements on that. And those are the types of things that you want to do with your spouse, but you get to
Yeah.
a point where, she like, I'm gonna have to do this with my sister, because I can't sit around and feel like, again, like I'm being held back in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think you spoke to something that's really important, which I think is big when you want to be equally yoked financially. It's like, I'm not asking you to come in and take over all of my expenses, but I am asking you to be able to afford to do the things that I like to do. If I like to travel, I want to know that you can budget, you can put your money up, and you can go with me,
Mm-hmm.
to occasionally go to a nice restaurant. I need to know that you're going to be able to afford to be able to do that as well. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But like I said, I think social media got life messed up for us because we see all these people doing all these grandiose things, and it's just like we want to do that too. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that, but put yourself in a position where you can. Don't break your bank trying to do it. You know what I'm saying? But understand, like, it may take me a little bit to get here. I got to grind a little bit harder to get there. Like, I feel like we live in a time where, like, I honestly don't recall my mother like doing girls trips or all of these things. I think we just value something different from what our parents valued or the generations before them valued. Like, we have more education behind us, so we are working or have careers where we're making more money so we can afford to do certain things. But like I said, I don't believe in breaking the bank to do any of those things. Like, I do plan to go to Paris in July or whatever. Like, that's something I have wanted to do for forever. Like, I had the opportunity to live in England, so I frequented London a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, to be able to do something that I've wanted to do for so long, but I didn't just knee jerk be like, oh, I'm going to Paris. Like, I ain't even gonna lie. I went to Cannes, France for New Year's, and I was PO'd at the planning because I'm like, did I have the money? Yeah. But I ain't want you to pop up month of and it's Christmas time and be like, oh, this trip gonna be $1,100. And
Right.
like, why we didn't plan this beforehand? Like, I could have bought my flight back in October when the flights was probably cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then it would have been nothing to be like, okay, the Airbnb gonna be 500 a piece. Cool. Like, the trip turned out well, but I ain't gonna lie, I was peeved. Like,
No.
I done had to dip into my saving because the way my check is set up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I done had to dip
Already designated.
right. I already obligated my check to things. So I was a little peeved about it. But I told my friend when we planned this Paris thing, I said, look, don't pop up in June being like, okay, this is how much everything gonna cost. Like, it's February. We got time to make plans. Like, this is not just a discussion. This is what we're gonna do. Okay, let's plan accordingly.
Yep. And those are those types of personality differences are something else that shows up in a lot of people's relationships. That's what I mean when I speak to compatibility, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not that you have to do everything the exact same, but to be in a place where you understand somebody's thought process and you um appreciate how it works. And so you try to kind of align yourself within that and find a compromise. I know that I am a planner and an organizer, and I like to know when things are going to happen and what I
Mm-hmm.
need for them to happen, how much money I'm going to, all of the things that
Right.
are involved in any sort of like big ticket item, whether it be in a, I bought a building last year or going on a trip or whatever the case may be, even with dates, like please don't wait till the last minute to tell me because I like to plan my days out. I need to know
Right.
when I'm going to do what, all of that other type of stuff. But then you got people who are very much like they wake up and they figure out whatever the hell they're going to do for that day. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't put much thought into anything in a last minute and it's just all over the place. And I will own the fact that sometimes I meet men like that. And because maybe I'm attracted to them, I'm like, well, I could deal with it. I could go with the flow. No, the fuck you can't.
You
You
can't.
need to. I have that really bad. And I'll be trying to check myself about it. Like that's going to get on your nerves,
Mm-hmm.
and you're agitated, and then you're gonna have an attitude, and then you might be passive aggressive, and it's just not gonna work out.
Yeah.
But the issue with that is sometimes it's hard to find a man who understands the idea of planning and organization and thoughtfulness without them kind of just being a stick in the mud, right?
Yeah.
So me working on my own anxiety with like, okay, sometimes you're not gonna have a plan. Sometimes you can go with the flow. Like that's your shit. You gotta work on to be able to meet people where they're at. But also choosing a partner who understands this is important to you, why it's important to you, how it can trigger you if it's just too all over the place, and doing their best to accommodate that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I definitely agree with all of those, like everything that you just said. and it's important that we practice these things. Like I have to tell myself, like, I'm having these conversations about what I'm willing to accept in a relationship and what I'm not willing to accept in a relationship. And reminding myself as I am dating that now you done said you wasn't gonna do X, Y, Z. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna accept this. And so it's like I said, having the discernment to legitimately be like, okay, this ain't it. And it's hard because you want the next person to be the person, because you have these, like you said, these expectations of what you think a relationship should be like. But then you find yourself in these situations where it's just like, is that really, is this feasible? Like sometimes I'm not even gonna lie, like I meet people and I just be like maybe I'm asking for too much. But then I just saw this man my friend sent me this post and this guy posted. He said, if your woman is difficult and you can't handle it, go find you one that can. And to me, that's saying like, if a woman is difficult, she is going to be worth it. And if you're not strong enough to handle a woman who has boundaries or expectations and you can't meet them, leave that woman alone. Don't bother her. You know what I'm saying? Go find you somebody that is more on your level. I seen another man posting like, if you go on her social media and it say she been more than 3 countries in 1 year.
Yo, I saw that this morning. He was hitting facts.
Yes, like if she got more than 3 countries on her profile in 1 year, like that ain't the woman for you. Maybe you need to be in the bracket with the women who just like nice dinners. And to me, that's real shit. Like you out here, like, and like you said, women have to take accountability too. So that is sticking to the boundaries that you set. Like that's holding yourself accountable, sticking to the boundaries that you set, being able to identify when something is not going to work out for you. Like women need to do that. But as a man, if you're dating this woman and you know that there are some things or expectations she has in for her life that you cannot add to, stop bothering that woman. Like, go find you a woman who is more on your level.
It definitely it's complicated out here
It
when it
is
comes
very.
to those sorts of things because I think we're women, so and we surround ourselves with a certain caliber of women, so we don't always understand sometimes what men are facing, until you kind of see it in the flesh, or a Twitter thread, or because men are also less vocal about
Mhm.
certain. So like, yes, it's bitches out here with a hand out that expect everything for nothing, and they start to give women a bad reputation, and that's why I kind of hate generalizations, and that's kind of all you see on social media nowadays is everybody generalizing based on a couple experiences that they've had to feel like the one gender is doing all of these things and the other gender is doing none of these things, and it's like everybody just needs to take a step back,
Mhm.
go outside and touch some grass,
Yeah.
uh, date in real life, and really sort of expand your territory to understand, like, if you keep going after a woman that has the same aesthetic, the same look, you're likely going to get the same results. And that's not me telling people to date somebody in which they are unattracted to, right? But there are different forms of beauty, and sometimes we can see that if we just stop looking at so much of like the surface level stuff, and that's men and women alike. Like, as women, we got to understand if there are only this many, 6 figures out there, and only this many of them are Black, and this many of them are heterosexual, and this many of them don't have kids, our pool isn't that big. So yes, we should give the hardworking blue collar man a chance, especially because you have these men with trays. They're the ones getting them the ones with the real money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have to be able to. What people have to understand is we all typically date within our proximity and within our socioeconomic status.
Mm.
Like, you are in close connection to. So like, sorry, hun, you're not going to have the man who plays for the Clippers just come down one day and like find you and sweep you off your feet and you live in the middle of nowhere. It's just not going to happen that way.
For sure. I remember when I was living in England, we had met in Croatia, but he lived in London. And he was a semi-pro soccer player, but that was like legit his only job. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have no other job. That was his job. And I lived in the middle of nowhere, which was 2 hours away from London. So like if we wanted like there were things we could do in the area I lived in, but it was strictly just left to like, bars, dinner, we could do dinner, drinks, something like that. But like we wouldn't be able to like go and really have no fun,
Mm.
So the expectation was always that I would come to him to see him. And I'm just like, look, when I get off from work, like the only time he had to give was like Friday, because Saturday he had practice. Sunday like he working. So like Friday was the only day we really had to like spend time together, but I still had to go to work that day. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I'm making this 2 hour drive when I get off from work to London. I'm having to take the train to meet him wherever he is, because you can't really drive in London because they got tolls and shit all throughout the city. So you got to take the train or Uber or something to get to wherever you're trying to get to in London. And I'm like, by the time I done did all of that, like, yes, we done made it for drinks, dinner, the Dave and Buster's or whatever. And I got nothing else to give at the end of the night. Like, baby, I'm about to pass out.
Mm.
So I had to tell him, like, I don't think this is gonna work. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, this is very taxing. And as
Mhm.
much as I would like to see where this could go, I don't think it's gonna go nowhere.
Yeah. Because at the time, your lifestyles just look different.
Yeah.
They didn't- right? And that is also a big component of kind of how um successful or unsuccessful people's relationship with. Because when I say compatibility, it's not even just your personality, but your lifestyles. What is your day to
Mhm.
day look? A lot of people have issues like if they have a partner who works overnight and they work during the day, sometimes that can be difficult because when do we spend quality time together? That means it's harder for us to go to sleep together, which means it's harder for us to make room for sex, and that affects our intimacy. Like all of those things kind of have a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
um I think more people kind of have to pay attention to how those things mesh up.
Yep. And also I think when it comes to spending time, like I used to be like, I'm just asking you for time, or I'm just, like we need to spend time together. And what we need to take into consideration is if that person don't have the time, you may think you're asking for something free, but time has a price on it. You know what I'm saying? And time can be too expensive. So if you realize like somebody that you dealing with, like time is too expensive for somebody to give you, like you might need to let that go because it's not gonna change. Like that person is used to operating the way they operating, you wanting something to change, but if it's been working for them all this time, like what is the incentive to change that? And so I realized like I may be asking for something that seems free to me, but it may not be free to somebody else.
And I think sometimes, especially with time, it's easy to make that personal. I know I'm some it's real in my feelings. Like if he wanted to, he would but like
Mm-hmm.
you said, somebody's been operating like that for a while. It's really hard to convince them otherwise. And then you also have maybe and it's not a gender thing, men or women who are kind of okay with just like getting in where they fit in, and that's usually because they got other options. So yeah, that man may not be able to see me um once a week or twice a week, but I got other men that I'm seeing. So even in that once every 3 weeks that he see me, it's like, yeah, I go when I see him, and they feel like that's working. But like it's only because there are other options on the table. Um to be able to like not care about that as much. But sometimes I think it's only until because I think women sometimes when we really are interested in a man, we gonna make some shake. We gonna make the room, we gonna clear the schedule. Like what time you want me to be ready? I'm gonna move this meeting. Shit, I'd move clients for a date if I was that
Mm-hmm.
but men see their time and their like you said, their time and their money a little differently. So I think sometimes for them it doesn't click until, maybe they go to therapy or they like, I really want to date, and then I get to picking holes about like why isn't this working? And it's like, again, love is blind. I noticed when Clay and AD they met up with Mama for lunch, and the first thing that was super indicative to me that their mom and sister asked like, "How are you dealing with his work schedule?"
Yeah.
Because your sister know that you struggle to make time.
Mm-hmm.
That's in even the relationships that they have with you. I can barely catch them on the phone or get them to come over and visit me or whatever the case may be. That's going to transfer over into how he dates.
Right.
And most women know if you cannot prioritize making the time, a woman is going to get annoyed and frustrated with that, right? So the fact that like they had to kind of break that down to him, and he's just like, well, I just gotta work. I just gotta. Okay, so if that relationship that you claim to want so bad starts to fall apart because the person in which you are with does not feel like you are investing the time needed to grow that
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's something that kind of has to, a switch has to go off. Like, you want to make this work, it ain't just about like being present when you're there. It's about being intentional and creating certain shifts in your schedule to make that happen. Like, if you keep operating the way you've always operate, yeah, you're not going to find the time. But if
Mm-hmm.
you sit down and say, okay, it's no different than, I think of it like when I want to get serious in the gym, sometimes like I just recently made a alteration to my work schedule where I was like struggling to get clients at a certain time. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna scrap them 2 morning clients with them 2 morning slots. I'm gonna
Yeah.
work out in the morning, and then I'll just see one client later, an hour later than I typically in my day, because I know I can fill that slot. But
Mm-hmm.
that's because me making it to the gym on that day was important for me. I wanted to be able to incorporate that into my schedule and into my routine. And so I made the adjustments to do that. And I think sometimes men, they may think, they may have a really good grasp of like time management or something in one area of their life, but they don't always understand how to translate that over into another area.
Yes, yes, that is big facts. Cause like I know people will be like, even when it comes to money, like they'll be like, "Oh, I don't got no money to do XYZ," but you got all these vices that you pay for. If you cut that vice out, there you done freed up some money. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, I think it's hard for people to realize the like how to manage their time, how to manage their money where they can incorporate somebody else into those slots. And it's unfortunate because those are things that are required for a relationship, and it's not that women just out here, some women, it's not that some women are just out here with their hand out. Because even like you had said, I saw one of your TikToks recently, and you was talking about how men don't allow women to do nice things for them. And it's like it could be a pride thing. It could be whatever that means to them, and why they have a hard time accepting things from women. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, just as much as I'm asking for you to be thoughtful and mindful of me as you move throughout your day, you know what I'm saying? I want to show you that I'm doing the same thing in return. Like, this is a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. Like, I don't have all these expectations that you do for me, and then I'm not doing anything in return for you. Um, and and that's the hard part.
Yeah, no. And the last thing I'll say about that too is, um, unfortunately, like sometimes you'll point this out to certain men, like, well, you could be doing this and this, and that would improve your chances of like dating or having successful relationships. And they just kind of like, well, I don't know. Okay, so then you're not in a position to date. So like you don't want to do the things that are necessary, but you also want to continue to pursue women and expect for them to just be okay with that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not gonna work. I need for y'all to understand that. Like, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, like my last ex, like I had to tell him, like, you saying you want this life with me and you want, to have this family with me, but you're not doing nothing to get there. Like you have to show up. You have to be present. when we were talking about having children, and I had to ask him, like, are you ready to be a full-time father? And he's like, oh, for sure. But then I'm thinking about the amount of time you don't spend with me now. Like, how do I think having a child with you is going to be any different? And that was something I had to start asking myself, like being realistic with myself, like he's not doing the things he needs for the relationship now. And so to me, like I think it's important that men understand, like, if you're not in a position to date, don't, because there are requirements that come with it. You can't just be like, oh, we together today, and then do nothing to enhance the relationship.
Exactly. Yep. So some people,
Mm-hmm. They just
but
don't.
yeah, no, they don't. And they just go with the flow and see how long it'll work out until it don't.
Yeah, like I know people, they'll tell me like I come off too strong. And it's just like, no, I don't feel like I come off too strong. Like I played the just going with the flow part. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I want to be in a serious relationship. So I'm letting you know fresh out the gate, like this ain't for play. You
Mhm.
either here for to date with a purpose, or you not gonna be here at all. And if you can't handle that, like say that and we can go our separate ways. Like, don't waste my time.
Yeah, nope, you're not wrong. Because ultimately, we all have a choice, and
Mm-hmm.
what we ignore in the present is what we complain about later. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep. But, I appreciate you for coming on the show. It is always a joy to talk to you. I definitely can't wait to see you when I come to Chicago in a couple weeks. So I'm excited about that link up. Do you have any final words that you would like to say?
oh, girl, I think I said all the words, but thank you for having me. It's always good going over some of these topics and trading ideas and perspectives, and I hope everybody listening really enjoyed.
Yes. You want to tell, because I know she has been doing some really awesome things. You want to tell people where they can find you at on social media, so that they can tap into the things that you have going on.
Yeah, so my Instagram, my TikTok, my Twitter are all at Bring It Brat, BringItBrat_. And that's where you can find the link to my business page, my link tree that has all of my prior my YouTube channel, the link to my book, The Things I Wish I Knew, which is a mental health book, and other podcasts and interviews and things that I've done.
Mhm. Is your book on Kindle, or is it just paper copy?
Paper.
Ugh, I'm gonna have to order it though. I've been meaning, like, I've been wanting to get more into reading books for sure. Kindle is more convenient because it's easily accessible. I ain't gotta wait for
I'm
years.
like, us small town writers, I ain't figured out how to do all of that yet. People was quick to ask, you got an audio book, girl, it just dropped. Just get the feel the book in your hand. But when I see you, I'll bring you a copy. That way we'll just
Okay, okay. But yes, again, I appreciate you for coming on the show. Y'all check out her social media so that y'all can get linked in. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. And until next time, bye.